Last week, you touched on the Creed. We were kind of talking about the Eucharist. Why do you suppose Pontius Pilate's name was included in the Creed? It bothers me to think of how many times a day his name is repeated throughout the world. Why call so much attention to him when it was all of us who caused Christ to suffer? Okay, so I guess somebody's saying, why are we placing all the blame on Pontius Pilate?
Well, no, but I think one of the things that, at the Council of Nicaea in particular, the idea of Jesus's, historicity, his incarnation at a particular place and time was very important in establishing him not only as true God, but also as true man. And so, of course, the most evident historical indicator of his place, his time, is of course the reign of Pontius Pilate, who was the governor, the Roman governor, in Israel, the Judean Roman colony, and so you've got Rome there, you've got Jerusalem there, you've got the exact time there, and so that is the temporal indicator that they used to show the historicity, which was very important to establishing the incarnation as a point in time, and of course the crucifixion as a point in time, and so they included that one name. But you're right, there were a lot of other there were a lot of other people who were involved in that, not just Pontius Pilate, but that was the one that they chose. They didn't want to make a huge list of them, and second, for the very reasons you mentioned, and secondly, we're never just calling attention to him. We're negatively calling attention to him. Suffered under Pontius Pilate, and then was crucified, died, and was buried. So that's why they did it.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. So this way of, in a sense, placing it at a point in time in history that somebody could say, this is a real event, this is when it happened. It gives you a time frame to go back and look at that rather than just something that's left as a general sense.
That's right, and it's a definitive historical indicator that's in Josephus, it's in Tacitus, right? So you get it in a variety of extramental sources. And the interesting thing is because it's mentioned in Tacitus and also Josephus, these are extra biblical testimonies. Extra biblical means not in the Bible, but it testifies to the historicity of Jesus in a Roman historian, Tacitus, and in a Jewish historian writing for Romans, namely Flavius Josephus. So essentially, you've got these extra biblical testimonies all converging on this one name, Pontius Pilate.
So do you think Josephus was a Roman collaborator?
No, I think he was very much a Jewish person, of real, I think he had very strong feelings for Judaism and for Jerusalem. However, he did want to make his three major works appealing to the Roman populace, for which he was writing and was being rewarded somewhat handsomely. So I do think he kind of makes it appealing. He explains a lot of things, but he is in many ways unapologetically Jewish. But he's unapologetically Jewish within the Roman culture. So he's certainly not putting out a zealot program there. He's putting out a very, very accommodatable view of Judaism, though he presents a lot of the Jewish messianic and zealot movements, no friends of Rome, and he presents them in very honest ways and portrays those guys somewhat heroically. So he's an interesting figure, but he certainly had a wide readership in Rome as well as among the Jewish people. So you could kind of say he's sort of lodged in between. He wasn't, though, like a collaborator, or even a sort of a denier of the authenticity of Judaism, though he had been obviously somewhat secularized.
Right. Some people use that as a way to try to question what he wrote, as how reliable it was at times. So, but that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's actually reliable, and the extra-testamental testimony to Jesus, I think is you know, if you get rid of the interpolations, that later interpolations, I mean, he does you know, talk about Jesus not only in terms of his crucifixion, but also in terms of the fact that he was known to be a miracle worker,
Right.
and of course that he had a real influence, and that coming from a Jewish person writing for Romans, that means something, even if he, let's say, may have been a little bit secularized. It
Right.
means quite a bit.